Hi, welcome to Teardown Tuesday. We love retro computers here on the EEVblog. Doesn't get as much retro as this little known puppy. Everyone knows about the Apple Macintosh, of course, absolute classic, and well, it's still around today. But not many people, except your computer aficionados, know about the Apple Lisa. And this was Apple's first graphical user interface machine. It predates the Macintosh. This one came out in January 1983, so it's over 30 years old. Fantastic. And I've got one. I think they're pretty rare here in Australia. There are over 100,000 made, which it was pretty much a failure. They expected to sell a lot more of these things, but unfortunately it was originally released at $10,000 US. That was $1983. And just the price of it, even though the hardware and the graphical user interface and everything else was pretty impressive, it was just too darn expensive, so it died. What a shame. Now, rumour has it this thing cost Apple about $50 million to develop, and it actually took them about 5 years to do it. They originally started developing this in around 1978, designed to be like the replacement for the Apple II, which of course was the killer machine of the day. And the graphical user interface technology of this, of course, comes from 1979, after Apple were allowed in to visit the park and see the Alto and their graphical user interface technology, the mouse and everything else. So unfortunately I don't have a keyboard with this, and I don't have the mouse, which was an absolute killer thing for this at the time. Everyone raved about the mouse and the graphical user interface. Largely, well, the concept was stolen from Park, but hey, credit where it's due to the Apple team. They actually developed that. They basically developed their own graphical user interface system and, you know, brought it to commercial reality, whereas the Park hardware wasn't really commercial. It was just sort of prototype. They never really took it to market. Now, of course, this was famously Steve Jobs' baby, and it was named after Steve Jobs' baby, Lisa. That's where the name comes from, which he finally admitted later in the game. A lot of people came up with what, you know, ideas for what the acronym actually stood for, but no, it was named after his daughter, Lisa. And it's a pretty sexy looking machine. Check it out. Just, you know, even today, I think it still holds up. You know, obviously modern computers don't look like this, but it still has a sort of beautiful quality to it. I really like the design of this thing. Beauty. So a lot of the credit for the hardware in this thing generally goes to Wayne Rosin, who was the key architect behind the hardware in this puppy, which is what we're going to take a look at. I most likely can't get it booted. I don't think this thing works, as we'll see in the back here. I've already just taken off the back panel and had a look, and it doesn't look that terrific. So yeah, I don't know if to get it back up and working, it may require significant effort. No idea if there's actually a hard drive in here at all. So anyway, this is Teardown Tuesday, and you know what we say here on the EEVblog: don't turn it on, take it apart. And yes, I know what all you aficionados are going to say. Dave, you're pulling a Swifty. This isn't the original Apple Lisa. Well, no, it's not. This is actually the Lisa 2, which came out a year later, January 1984, but it's damn close to the original. The only thing they changed was that basically they changed to the Sony 400K 3.5-inch micro floppy here, because the original Lisa had two 5.25-inch drives. They were codenamed Twiggy, and they were apparently horribly unreliable, so they just dropped that, and they had to use special discs. So apparently they were horribly unreliable drives, those Twiggies, so it made sense to change over to the Sony micro drive, which was pretty much the duck's guts at the time. And if you look under the bottom here, which has room for the keyboard here, how it's all recessed in, and that is a very nice design aspect of this I really like. And it's got nothing but a big clunky power switch under there. You know, you can't easily hit that. Very nice. And the keyboard port as well. And just for the Apple fanboys, there's the money shot. And by the way, this thing weighs a bloody ton. And on the back here, we've got what looks like a reset switch, but I can't press that at all. It ain't working like a switch. We've got a video out, which is kind of weird considering it has video built in. We've got a parallel port, we've got our mouse port, and 2 serial ports as well. And it looks like it's only 120 volt AC supply only. So yeah, I'm not going to be able to power it up without a mains transformer to drop the voltage. And it looks like we've got brightness and sync controls as well for the monitor here. So a little bit crusty. Another Apple logo for the fanboys. And credits also got to go to Robert Parator as well. Apparently he worked on the hardware too, was one of the key designers of this thing. By the way, yes, it does use a Motorola 68000 processor at a screaming 5 megahertz, so not as fast as the original Macintosh. Now, apparently, these things are really sort of like modular and designed to be easily open. And apparently, there's 2 clips on the bottom here. I haven't never tried this, but apparently you're supposed to be able to lift. There we go. Supposed to be able to lift that out. Ah, no hard drive. Ripped off. This is where the hard drive is supposed to go. And wah, 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 wah. And there's the Sony micro floppy, and as you can see, it has seen better days. Lots of rust and corrosion on there, and it's going to get worse when we take a look inside. This is not a prime example of an Apple Lisa, unfortunately. And for those playing along at home, here is the serial number. There's an Apple net number as well, and there's a manufacture date, but I have no idea what that means. Now, one interesting feature is that here's the front panel that comes off. Got ourselves a micro switch there to detect whether or not somebody's taken off the front panel, and apparently these things would shut down if you took off the front or the rear panels. And there's the original build plate on the bottom. It's the model number A6S0300, made in the USA. USA. And it has memory option, whatever that is. But this thing, the Lisa 2 came standard with 1 mega memory. Now you will see a lot of rust and corrosion inside this thing, as we saw on the Sony floppy drive here, but all the all the aluminium metal work here really looks in good nick. Nothing wrong with that at all, like it just was built yesterday. Yeah, look at some of the corrosion on the serial port connector there, but that's not uncommon for machines of this vintage. I did get this one from near the beaches, near the northern beaches in Sydney, so yeah, not the best environment with the saltwater air. And to get the back panel off, you just do these thumb screws here, and bingo, Bob's your uncle. We're in like Flynn, look at that. Ugh, look down here. Look at the corrosion on that card edge connector. Oh man, I haven't seen anything that bad in a long time. That is just awful. That may be like, well, I'm not going to say unrepairable, but geez, that is pretty awful. Anyway, we'll have to give it a clean up and see what we can do with that, but this has bugger all chance of working. And then we've got 4 backup batteries there. Well, they've seen better days. Ugh, yuck. Ugh. And there's our 3 expansion slots there, and they're rather unusual in that they're not very deep, but they're as tall as the machine, so rather unusual form factor expansion cards, but it makes sense, of course, given their overall system design. And there's the main ROM for this thing, and you're probably wondering who is Sun Remarketing Inc. Well, it turns out that they were a reseller back in the day, and they sold Apple computers and older Apple computers as well, and they were obviously very keen on this Lisa, and did lots of like aftermarket development for it and things like that. So maybe they've customized this ROM a little bit. Now, I said this thing was modular, and that doesn't just extend to the front and rear panels. All of this circuitry, all this card cage, because this is just the I/O card at the back, or the system I/O, we're going to have the processor board behind that, we've got a base board, and it's all supposed to just pull out. And that's why presumably why they've got a metal bar here, and I'm going to, it's supposed to pull out. Yeah, could be a bit rusty. It's giving. Yep, there we go. And this is some clever system design. I like that. Check it out. We've got ourselves a total of 4 boards, plus obviously memory boards. There's our main processor. There's the big beast 68,000 up there. And plus the baseboard. That's a really nice designed card cage. I really love that. Thumbs up to whoever worked on that one. And just look at the attention to detail on this card cage. Look, they've gone to the effort to silk screen the labels in here. 2 memory cards, of course, the CPU and the I/O, and they've color-coded them. Brilliant. And you can see that basically nothing has changed on the Lisa 2 here. These are all using, you know, the copyright 1982 boards here. So same with the CPU one as well. So really essentially no difference. They just changed the drives over and just sort of changed the marketing spec of the thing. And it seems like this one might have the latest, in quote marks, firmware in this thing. Look, 1985. And for all you 68,000 fanboys out there, here it is. Oh, isn't it beautiful in that huge dip package? Socketed, of course, in a crappy dual wipe contact socket. Date code 21st week 83. And as I said before, this board is like 1982 vintage, and there's other chips on here which are around about 83 vintage. So yeah, this thing was manufactured in the time that they, around about the time that they manufactured the Lisa 1. So this is a Lisa 2, but as I said, it's basically the same machine. And you bet your ass we've got a 555 timer. Oh, but it's twice as good. It's the 556. Awesome. And there's the crystal on it. Doesn't say what speed, but the processor operated at 5 megahertz, which was much less than the first Mac, which ran at about 8 or something like that. So yeah, it was a pretty sluggish machine, and with its complex operating system, as fantastic as the OS was and groundbreaking for its time, it was just apparently very, very sluggish. And we've got ourselves a classic 4-layer board construction here, very typical of the day, of course. All the chips pretty much lined up in rows. The top side of the board has all the traces, and most of the traces running in this direction, because this is how you routed these boards back in the day. And of course, ground plane and power plane, and on the other side, of course, you see all the other traces running in this direction like this. So it was just much easier to route. It could have been routed by hand. I think it probably was, although they did have the auto routing algorithms to actually do these boards. It was a fairly common task back in the day to auto route these, but I think somebody took a bit of pride in this one and actually hand laid that out. And the board was made in Singapore. That might have just been the bare board. It could have very well been stuffed, which is the technical term, it really is, in the US. I'm not sure, but yeah, probably the blank board made in Singapore. And I am really concerned with the oxidization on this board. I've really got to clean this up quick smart, but yeah, it's not in great condition, let me tell you. And we still have the odd bodge. There we go. We've got a pin there. Obviously needed a cap to ground. Yeah, some sort of, just to take the edge off that sucker. We've presumably got some sort of GAL or PAL array under there. Dead giveaway that it's got the a part number on it, but the majority of the other chips are just off-the-shelf Jelly Bean 7.4 series. And just below the CPU there, we've got a little bit of memory, so I'm not sure what they're doing there. But anyway, most of the other chips, we've got a mix of all standard 7.4 series Jelly Bean logic. We've got LS series chips, nicely silk screen, of course. We've got F series, we've got ALS down here, we've got ourselves some S series logic. So that was fairly typical of the day to mix and match your logic families like that. For just, you know, like you use the 7.4F for the fast stuff. Obviously, they've coupled that into the memory there. They decide to use F, and for the lower speed stuff in interfacing, they use LS, or they might use you know, slightly faster ALS. And of course you had the decoupling spread across the board like this. There we go, a couple of axial caps, just, you know, not quite one per chip. You know, they might be sharing one per two chips, and the processor might have one up near it here, but that's about it for the decoupling, because this didn't run particularly fast. And also with the huge ground plane on this thing, you'd get a fair bit of capacitance between, you get a fair bit of distributed capacitance on the ground plane as well. That was fairly common for the day. You could pretty much get away with, you could probably remove half those caps, or, you know, a good majority of them. The thing would probably still work. Now back over to this I/O board now, and this is pretty fancy pantsy. Look at this. You can see it's got its own ground plane. This is something you don't often find on here. They've got a switching regulator with a 4193 on there. There's the big ass inductor. They've got the output filter cap for that, and that's, you know, I don't know what rail voltage they're generating there, but yeah, they obviously needed a bit more efficiency than what a regular regulator could provide, or maybe they're you know, stepping it up. Maybe it's a boost. I'm not even sure of the configuration there. And we've got some bodges and mod wires on here, look, running all over the place to this 7.4LS, couple of pins. There we go, absolute classic stuff. I love it. We've got another bodge cap down in here. Obviously had to take the edge off that pin. And, you know, there's quite a few mods on here. And we've got our custom Apple COPS chip here, 1981. So pretty ancient. Ugh, look at that. Look at that corrosion. Oh my goodness, is there anything left under that? Probably, I don't know, but colourful, crusty stuff under the switch. Look at that. Yum, yum. Well, there you go. That might fairly definitively date this bare board to the 21st week 84. So that's relatively late, actually. And by the way, if you're wondering what these numbers across here and these letters, these are grid coordinates. This was fairly common back in the day, so that the service manual could go, well, replace the chip at 11D, like that, and bingo, that'd be that one. And if you hold it up to the light, there you go, you can actually see through that, and this is a double-sided board. There's no ground plane in there, so they saved a fair bit of cost. They didn't need it like they did on the main processor board. And the keyboard and parallel port controllers here, these are the 6522 VIA, the standard I/O interface chip for the 6502 processor. Even though this is not a 6502 processor based machine, it's a Motorola 68000, you know, totally different architecture. Still, you can reuse these sort of interface chips, no problems at all. And the serial port up here is controlled by the Zilog 8530. So once again, this was designed for the Z80, like a serial interface controller, but just like the 6502 VIAs, you can reuse these things in pretty much any processor architecture, and that's what they decided to do. They were familiar with them, just reuse it. But they are their own individually masked ROMmed processors just to handle those single tasks. And we've got ourselves a 6504 here. I'm not sure what task that one's actually running. Got ourselves a GAO here, but most of the other stuff on here is, as before, standard 7.4 series logic. And by the way, the Lisa had very advanced copy protection for its day. Pretty horrendous, actually, if you think, you know, DRM is a pain in the ass these days. Each machine had an individual serial number programmed into it. I'm not sure where it is. It's got to be either a GAL or a ROM somewhere, but an individual serial number programmed into each machine, which would then be written onto the original software disk when you ran it for the first time. So when you got your software for the thing, you could only register and run it on your Lisa machine. So if you're, you know, if you replaced your hardware, your software doesn't work anymore, and you couldn't sell the software or anything. So pretty horrendous. You know, I mean, if this machine actually got popular, no one would have stood for that. In fact, you could say it was sort of destined not to become popular, even if it was affordable, because of that horrendous digital rights management on the thing and locking that software in on the original discs. But hey, people are clever, you know, they found ways around all the copy protection schemes back in the day. So I'm no doubt somebody would have found a way around this, but because it wasn't popular, I don't think anyone bothered. Does anyone know? And here are our two memory boards, and they're slightly different. I mean, this one here has your traditional green solder mask on it, but this one here looks like, yeah, different color. So sort of manufactured maybe in a different factory or a different time, certainly a different batch process, and the memory chips are actually different, same type, but from different manufacturers, and it's separated into the lower byte and the upper byte. I believe these boards are a total of 512k words because it's a 16-bit machine, or 1 megabyte of memory. But that was a lot back in the day. 1 meg was, whoa. Once again, made in Singapore. It looks like the 44th week, 1983, this one. And still made in Singapore yet again, but much older, 39th week, 84. So like a whole year difference between these two boards. So you've got to wonder, like, was this machine like a, you know, aftermarket upgraded or something like that? Not entirely sure, but yeah, there's a huge difference between them. So obviously probably not factory original boards like fitted when the machine was originally bought. And these look for all the world like the bareboard manufacturer markings here. So we've got ourselves Astro. So is that the name of the company that made this one? And Senmina there. So if anyone's got any detail on those companies, but maybe they're long gone, I don't know. Who knows? Well, they could be still around making boards. Who knows? But as with all these boards in the Apple Lisa, they're all branded like the processor board, the I/O board, and these boards. They're all got a date of 1982 on there. So that's when they would have been laid out. And on the older board, check it out, we have Apple branded MOSFET DRAMs here. These are the MK4564N-20. These are 200 nanoseconds, 64K by 1 bit. And they were manufactured 30th week, 83 by MOSTEC. So yeah, Apple ordered enough of these. They got their logo on them. That's common. And the other board from 84, these are Hitachi. These are HM4864s and -3. So they 300 nanosecond jobs. Anyway, got the little Apple logo on there and assembled in the USA. And we've got 9 of these chips per bank. Look at that. So obviously we had a parity bit there because they, you know, to make up a byte, you won't, because these are 1-bit chips. So you really only need 8 of them, but they've got a 9th one there. So that must be for parity, I'm presuming. And so each bank of those is 64K. So 6428. We've got 8 of those total. So this is actually a 512 K board. So the total system memory on the Lisa was 1 meg, and I believe, well, this Lisa 2 was sold standard with 1 meg of memory, so it would have been populated with 2 of these boards, but it was capable of going up to 2 meg, but I don't know if anyone ever sold boards that allowed it to be expanded up to 2 meg, at least possibly not Apple, maybe a third party. And what's left in this card cage? Well, it's just pretty sad looking, isn't it? There's not much in. We've got 1 chip down here and a socket, and looks like we have a couple of inductors and caps in there for the mouse port. That's some RFI stuff. So, and a couple of dip switches down here for this serial, and they look really, really crusty. And oh, look at the corrosion on the contacts, and they are pretty colours though. And there's the Lisa expansion bus, 3 slots, and looks like we have a card ejector of some description here. And then going into the main chassis there, that looks like the video output connector. So it's just got 3 wires, just, you know, hard to see in there, it's a bit dark, but yeah, just the wires going off to the CRT in there. And then we've got ourselves the disk drive connector, and it's seen better days. The contacts, it all needs thorough cleaning as well, and that just goes off to a ribbon to the hard drive controller. And apparently it was pretty intelligent for the day. It would map out bad sectors and do stuff like that. I mean, we take it for granted these days, but that was pretty advanced stuff back then. And once again, with the modular nature of this thing, check it out, the power supply switching, of course, just pops out. There we go. We've got some big high current contacts down there. Very nice. A Data Power Inc. actually did that. There we go. December 20th, 1984. They're in Orange County, California. Fantastic. So that's made in the US as well. We've got ourselves a little single-sided riser controller board here. That might have been common across different products perhaps, but it's okay, you know, for the day. Look at all the hot snot down in there. It's not hot snot, it's actually Celastic type stuff, and just holding a few of the wires down. You know, and that's not too shabby. Look, they've got the spacers down here on the diodes, so they're lifting those off to get the airflow and the extra heat sinking of the leads down there. So it's not too, you know, it's okay. It does look a bit how you're doing, but I don't mind it at all, especially for the vintage. There we go. We've got some extra heat sinking on these diodes down here. They've put them on that plate just to heat sink those. And a little spacer in there. They're just, it's a bit loosey-goosey, but it does the business. And I was wondering where the micro switch was for the back panel. There it is there. But I'm led to believe that the Lisa has like a soft shutdown function. Even the power button, which I said was a big clunking power switch before on the front panel, apparently it's still a soft button, and the Lisa would actually gracefully shut down and then reboot to where it was, which was pretty advanced for the day. And maybe if you removed the front and back panels, this is the back panel one, so that would interrupt the processor and gracefully shut the machine down. So you certainly can't power this thing up. You've got to override these switches if you want to power it up with the back covers, front or back covers off. And by the way, yes, this isn't quite the original color. It has yellowed with age, which is very typical of the machines of the day. It's the bromide that was used in the plastic, and you can actually rejuvenate these things. Not terribly easy, but you can rejuvenate and get that original beige color look back, and the color should be reasonably accurate here on the video. I have color balanced my video camera, so this is, you know, not exactly factory original color, but very common. And unfortunately on this processor board, even after trying to clean this up, like really heavy scraping with a conductive brush and isopropyl alcohol, look, the pads are just eating away on this card edge connector here, and that gunk is just caked on there, and there's just, I mean, you know, ultimately it's repairable, but geez, you've got to put a lot of work into fixing something like this. So unfortunately, those batteries have done their business and ruined this poor innocent processor board. What a shame. Look what we have to deal with here, and like that's like the rot has started on these connectors, and yeah, I think this one is beyond economical repair. That looks like a capacitor. Used to be. Wow, look at that. And even the batteries are branded Apple. Check it out. Assembled in Mexico. And you can see the rot has started setting under the solder mask there, and well, yeah, that's just starting to eat away the copper under there in many places on the board like this. Check it out. And that's, yeah, that's only going to get worse with time unless you got in there and thoroughly stripped it all down and put in new traces, and well, yeah, this thing is pretty much gone. And here's the Sony floppy drive controller. It's called the Light Adapter, and there is the only Lisa logo that we've actually found inside this thing so far. There it is, silk screened onto the board. The other boards don't have it at all. And there's not a huge amount on there. There's just some 7.4 series chips and a 5.068 megahertz crystal. There it is. And the Lisa 2 also has this extra socket here for the AMD AM9512 floating point math co-processor. It's a 64-bit job, and it's, you know, it doesn't have a huge amount of functionality. It's only got your basic operations, but hey, a math co-processor was not too bad in the day. But by the time this one was out, I think like the Intel 8087 was around, and it was better, and sort of, yeah, this one wasn't that popular, so it's not even fitted to this. Not even sure if any of the Lisa software took advantage of it. Now this is actually a Lisa 2 machine as opposed to the different Lisa 2/10 which had the built-in 10 meg hard drive in it, and I probably should have known that before I even opened it, because it does have the Lisa 2 had the parallel port connector on the back for connecting over to the hard drive module, whereas the 2/10 they redesigned this motherboard and left out the parallel connector on the back. Oh, and in case you're wondering about the glorious screen, a whopping 720 by 360 resolution, monochrome only of course, but hey, this was actually considered a high resolution screen back in its day, so not too bad at all. And at the bottom of the CRT, after you remove the main cover plate on here, we can see we've got our system speaker, and you can probably just see the part number on the tube down in there, and it's dated 11/28 for the 11th/03. And quite frankly, I'm not hugely keen to take all the chassis apart just to get in there and see the CRT, but it looks like you know, a reasonable quality board in there, as you'd expect, and nice and tidy on the wiring looms and things like that. So yeah, it wasn't just slapped together. How you doing? So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed that look at the Apple Lisa, 1983 vintage, 31 years old or more, and it was designed in the late 70s. Took them 5 years, almost 5 years to get this thing to market. Absolutely incredible. And then it just flopped. It was, you know, it wasn't a bad machine at all. It looked the business, and the GUI operating system way ahead of its time with lots of advanced memory protection features and things like that. You know, a lot of things didn't come around until a decade or more later. So really advanced machine for its time, but its price killed it. That is why the Apple Macintosh won, because it was targeted as a lower price machine, and when it came out it was very wimpy as well. Kind of this thing was, the hardware was ultimately underpowered for what it was trying to do. Same with the original Macintosh, but then the laser printer came out and desktop publishing, and that's what sort of, you know, created the success for the Apple Macintosh, and this thing is just a footnote in Apple's history. But anyway, my hat's off to all the designers and software people who worked on the Apple Lisa, and ultimately a total flop, but I still like it. Doesn't it look snazzy? Look at that. Jeez, I think obviously the boards in this thing, you could, if you're a really keen fanboy and had a lot of time and energy on your hands, you could repair the boards and get it up and working in original condition. But who knows, maybe I could run an emulator inside or something like that, drive the CRT directly, get it back working as an Apple Lisa, but maybe not using the original boards. Unfortunately, I think they're probably a bit too far gone, and might not be worth attempting to repair those. And obviously I can't power the thing up because it's just not going to work. It's not even worth trying, or because the edge connectors on the cards are eaten away and things like that. So yeah, it really requires substantial work just to get it to a bootable condition, let alone not having a hard drive in the OS and everything else. So anyway, if you've got any good ideas what I can do, replace the CRT and turn it into a fish tank maybe. No, sacrilege. I'd get hate mail, death threats. What's the difference? Get those anyway. So, hope you enjoyed that. If you want to discuss it, EEVblog forum, links are down below. And as always, if you liked Teardown Tuesday, please give it a big thumbs up, because that helps on YouTube with the search engine algorithms and all that sort of crap. Anyway, catch you next time. Oh, there it is. Ah, look at that. Thing of beauty. And for those who are curious about the famous signatures on the inside of the case, yep, they're all there. Check it out. And there, folks, is Steve Jobs. Ta-da!